Right, so last time we left off where we managed to get this DB method injected into the RSpec test suite, which gives us access to an instance of a SQL connection so that we can perform queries on it, which is pretty amazing. But we're lacking a critical feature, which is running migrations, right? Most projects will probably have migrations. Now, that being said, the way we're going to do it in order to make it in a TDD style fashion, discovery testing style, we are going to create a smaller project inside our main project, which is the gem. All right, so the way it's going to work, we are going to create a little sub project within our test folder. Right, so currently the layout of the test folder is as such, but we're going to create a little folder called fixtures, mkdir, spec fixtures. Right, and we're going to cd into this fixtures folder and run the bundle gem command, bundle gem, and minus manual test is going to be RSpec. If I can spell this correctly, and we're going to call this specquel. Oh, this is going to be difficult. Specquel, there you go. Integration test. Let's cd into the folder, specquel integration test, and open this. So a couple things. We don't really care about the gem specs file, which we also need to remove from the gem file. And we are going to also remove the .git folder that was created for us, because it's going to belong to the containing project. Yes, I want to recursively delete all of this. Excellent. So in this folder now, in this project, we are going to add the path to our specquel gem, and we will do it as follows. And I think that should do the trick. And if we run bundle install now, it seems to have been working. Okay, so we're going to need to create a little spec as a starter, and we will use the existing spec that was generated for us, and then we'll create a describe block when with the specquel gem specquel. Oh, this is stuff, and then it is able to make queries it is able to access a SQL connection with a minimum amount of effort and configuration. All right, so we should be able to do something along the line of expect db.select 1, not 2, which is basically the same test as we had before, right? To equal, I think 1, that should do the trick. Let's run the test. Oh, well, it doesn't work. And why does it not work? What's the error message saying? Like, expect to... Oh, this is looking good. You must pass an argument rather than a block to Oh, right. Okay, yeah, it's not happy about this block syntax, I believe. And okay, so we're getting a bit further, and we don't have such a thing as a method db. That's because in the spec helper we need to require actually our specquel gem, which we'll go ahead and do and rerun the tests. And wonderful, we get our error message, and that's telling us to configure the gem, which we'll do, copy paste this, and run the tests. And it cannot load SQLite 3, so now that's another error. We need to add this to the gem file. Gem SQLite 3. Okay, let's run bundle install. Wonderful, that worked. Let's rerun the tests. And okay, so actually let's just let's just do get one. Okay, and this is going to be equal to 1, right? Excellent. Here's our test passing. Right, so now we want to add a test where we actually query a table, because this is just like doing a simple select one from the database, right? So let's create a context for this. When the project has migrations, it runs the migrations and allows me to select records from this table, from the migrated tables, plural. Right, so we are gonna have a rather boring table called users. Alright, and then we are going to select all of them. That's how you do it then we're going to expect that dot to equal and an empty array for now. That sounds good. Actually, no, let's create a user. Let's actually create a user, yeah. So the way you do this, you would do something along the lines of db/users .insert, and then you will insert a user that has a name, and the name is going to be, let's go with Mr. Tenderlove, and the name is going to be Aaron Patterson. I hope I'm not butchering his name. I think it looks alright. And then db insert name, which is actually not name but Tenderlove. And we would expect this to match an ID, which is going to be an instance of an integer, and name should be Tenderlove. Right, let's run this test. And it doesn't work because there is no such thing as stable user, right? Okay, so this is pretty good. Now that means we can jump back off of this smaller integration test project and go back to the specquel gem in the actual specquel gem test suite, right? So I'm just going to go through. I'm going to do it through the terminal so you can see a bit better what I'm doing. So pwd, you see that I'm in the fixture spec integration test folder. Now this part can get a bit confusing. This is why I'm going slow with it. So I'm going to go cd ... Now I'm in the fixture folder, cd dot dot, and now I'm in the spec folder. And we are going to create a new test. Actually, a new test file, which we'll call integration specs. Integrations, yeah. Spec.rb, okay, that's good. Now let's actually open this file. Right, so we will call this integration tests. So the way we're going to do this, before we run, so we need to run the bundle RSpec command inside this project. So we need to change we need to change our current directory first of all, and we are going to do this in a before block. Actually, no, we're going to do this in an around block. Example.com. No, example. And what we want to do dir.change dir and pass it a block. So this way, when the block exits, we will be back to the original folder. So we want to change the dir to change dir, and this accepts an argument. This is going to be file.join, and then dir.pwd, our current working directory, which is actually going to be the main folder. Yeah, the specquel gem folder. And to this, we want to join spec fixtures and whatever the name of the folder was. There you go. And now, once we are there, we want to run the example. Okay, so let's create an empty test and do it should run. It runs successfully with minimal configuration. All right, so just as a little clue, I'm going to print the current working directory so we can so you can see what's going on. dir.pwd, let's run this test. And as you can see now, when we're running the test, we're actually in the specquel integration test folder. Okay? And so, with no further ado, we can then here run the bundle exec RSpec within that folder and have a look at what's going on there. So if we do this, we can see that it does run successfully. It does say that it runs successfully because it's not making any assertions, but we can see that we do have our error. So there's one thing with RSpec. It's like even if it fails, it's going to output to standard output instead of standard error. Now the expected way, like for applications to run, if there's an error, they're going to write it to standard error, even if like other outputs are going to be run to standard output. I don't know why RSpec does this. I assume they have a very good reason for this. Maybe, for example, when everybody runs their test on CI, they want to see the test output, and maybe that's probably the best way to not mess with too much configuration. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure the RSpec people have a good reason for this to be this way. So let's run this command with the system command actually. And in RSpec, you can actually there's a matcher for this, where you want to capture the output and then verify things on the output of a command. Let's actually run this as a string to output to standard error to output, yes, to standard error, and we will want to see something along the lines of 1 example and 0 failures. Well, actually 2 examples, because, and that also should be a regex, because there are 2 examples in our little sub-project. 2 standard std out, I think, and I need to verify this. No, GitHub. No, let's go to RSpec. Output standard out std out. Yes, that is the matcher we are looking for. .2 standard out, 2 standard error, .2 standard out. I think we might need from the any process, but let's have a look with this now. If this just works, let's run this. All right, and the test failed. That is pretty good. Okay, so we've made some progress here. So how do we go about fixing this? Well, so that's where we're gonna need to add and implement this in our little library. So we need to go to the specquel gem here. Should we move those classes like configuration and API to different folders? I'm actually tempted to do it now. Okay, yeah, let's do that now before it becomes actually a little too messy. And okay, let's cut this and require specquel, and that's going to leave under the api.rb file. Specquel api.rb confirm. Now I need to wrap this into the main namespace. Nope, there you go. And our configuration, is our configuration gonna leave here for now? No, I think we need our own configuration file as well, just to keep things clean. Configuration, and then well, let me just copy all of this and then get rid later on of what we don't need. Configuration. Okay, let's get rid of that. Wonderful. This is our configuration. I think we should probably run the test now and see if we haven't broken anything. That's the beauty of test-driven development. You can always check where you are. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. We haven't broken anything. Actually, let's commit this. Let's add this and this. So we can do, I created a sub-project, a fixture project to integration test our integration test. That's specquel gem. Okay, that sounds decent. Right, so next thing we need to do, so the way this is actually going to work is that the SQL has a way to run programmatically migrations. So we can have a look at this. The documentation's quite clear. This is how you declare a migration, somewhat similar to Active Record. And if you want to run the migrations programmatically, you can just use this. You pass in your database connection instance, the path to the migration tier, whether you want to use transactions or not, right? So we're gonna go ahead And bit by bit, we're going to do this. So the way that should be done is that it should run the migrations before every test suite. So RSpec has a config block for this, and it's called the before suite block. And this will run only once before running all of your tests in your test suite. Okay, so here we should do something like, hey, SQL, no, what was the thing? SQL, migrate or run. So SQL, migrate or run, and then access our API and .db, I believe it's called, yes. And probably we want to access the configuration and have something along about the migrations folder, a configuration that will hold this. I think that's looking pretty good, and let's have a look at this. Let's run this this spec for now and see whether we have broken something. I would expect that we have broken something. Yes, we have broken something. So it doesn't know about this SQL migrator namespace. I believe this is because you need to add this SQL extension thing. And so let's go ahead and add this. Let's do it in line here. Okay, so it doesn't know about our constant API. Oh, yes, because it is nested under the specquel model, under the specquel namespace. Apologies. Okay, and it cannot find the DB method. Okay, so we need to define this method. As you can see now, it is defined as an instance method inside the module, but I want to be able to access it as well as a module function. So that's fairly simple to do. Just call module function, yes, and pass it the symbol for the function that you wish to run as a module function. And this is pretty good. We get a new error. That means we have gone further, and now we do need to configure our specquel gem, because at that point it is not configured. So let's copy this. And oh wait, which test was I running? I was thinking I was running this test. There might be a slight mistake here. Yeah, it's telling us that we need to configure this, but here the connection argument is actually not configured, so that's why it's raising this error. But here it should be configured because it runs the before block here. So I'm going to run this one. And it is, again, telling me that it is not configured. So I think what's happening is because it also runs this, that means it's going to reset the configuration class, the instance of the object. So for this to actually run, we do need to configure globally our specquel gem. So there's no way around that, I'm afraid. But that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine because that's how it's intended to be used. So let's do configure all. Actually, let me just. This is why we did what we did, just so that we don't have to type all of this. Right. That should now we should now be able to run this. Okay, uninitialized constant configuration. Okay, so it's not finding the specquel configuration class, although it is required. There might be something not working. Yeah, it is here. Module specquel and then configuration. All right. So it's complaining that lib specquel line 26 is not finding I'm losing myself between all these buffers. Line 26. Oh yes, okay, same thing down here. That's why it's not working. Simple problem, I think that should solve it. Okay, so now we get another error, which is it doesn't know about this migrations folder object on the configuration. So that's one thing we need to add to the configuration class. See how the discovery testing works, right? You sort of say, hey, okay, so this is the next step, right? So at this point we were here, we say, yeah, this is the next step to do. We assume that you're always going to have to make some assumptions, right? But we needed to run the migration, so we did this, and we said, okay, we need to pass an instance of the DB, and then pass a folder migration. So you sort of envision how the API might look like. You can play around with it. So for example, you might have said, oh, it's boring to access this specquel colon configuration. Maybe you want something along the line of, hey, config and then migration folder, right? Migrations folder. I can't type, and I also removed a bunch of things. Right, so and then you can play around with the API. I actually quite like this. This is rather nice, rather than just doing the configuration thingy. Oh, I might actually use this. Yeah. That's pretty good. So you see, we've got this now, and we can iterate on this. And it says, all right, no such module, no such method. Okay, so let's go to the specquel and implement that method. Config, and that should return our configuration instance. And now we should be back to square one. So let's add this attribute accessor. And that's going to be actually, let's go there, and then migrations folder, and run the test. No such thing, and it migrations folder. Have I misspelled something? Yeah, folder. Migrations folder. Yes. Excellent. And now it's telling us cannot implicitly convert null to string. Line 30 in our gem. Why? It's because this is empty. So that probably means we need to configure it in some way. So we need to configure it here. Now, this is something we also can't figure out. Like, you can't really find, I don't think you can have a nice defaults for it. And that's something users are going to have to configure. So in our case, we can pass something like db migrate, for example, and run this. And as you can see, we must supply a valid path, right? Well, that's quite simple because this path simply does not exist in our gem. And so I probably want to skip this bit, and you probably want this to be optional, run the migrations, right? So for example, within the specquel gem, we don't want to run the migrations because we want to do it in a integration way within the fixture project inside our fixture project. But for this one, I want to skip running the migrations. So I probably want to do something along the lines of, and have something like specquel dot run migrations, and yeah, the run migrations. Let's clean this up a bit, because yeah, we want to do this inside of migration, and we're going to have a bit of behavior. This is going to start to be messy in the before block, and I think it's perfectly reasonable at this point to have a method that just does those two things. And let's run the migration, make sure we get the same error. Oh, no, we don't, because there is no such. Oh yes, I forgot the bang. I'm adding a bang here because this is actually something destructive, meaning that we are going to run the migration, so technically we will be modifying the database or a database. So yes, I think now if we run the spec, yeah, we're back to our to our previous errors. So we want to be able to check that we do actually want to run the migration. So we should be able to do something along the lines of config.skip migrations. And we want to skip migrations, yeah, return if skip migrations. I think that's a reasonable name. That means we want to not run them if the skip migrations is set to, it returns false. Okay, so running the test, it says, yeah, there's no such thing as keeping migration on the configuration. So we need to implement this. And we want this to default to true. I think that's a sensible default. So let's initialize this to true. So skip migration is going to be false by default. Yeah, sorry, it's a bit of a mix match. Skip migrations is going to be false by default. And we're going to have a skip migrations. And that's just going to read off of this. But I like to have this predicate method because that's going to return either true or false. And yeah, just following Ruby's convention, really. So if we run the specs again, it's complaining about attribute accessor. Oh, there's no such thing as skip migration. Yes, so we want to also have attribute writers for this, so we can store this somewhere. Excellent. Yeah, so skip migrations is now implemented, but in our specquel gem, we actually now need to set this flag. So skip migrations is equal to false, to true, sorry. And we are not gonna need this anymore. However, yeah, we're not gonna need this anymore. Let's just get rid of that. Let me make this single quotes as well, because it's driving me nuts. And wonderful. So this test is passing. And what's the next step now? The next step now is to go back to our spec in our integration tests. And we run the tests. Right, and then we can see that there is no such table. We're still getting the same error, right? There are no such table users. So we actually need to create a migration inside that project. Spec fixtures equal integration, and we're going to create a migration under the db migrate and 0. What? I hate when it does this. db migrate and then 001 and then create users.rb. Okay, that sounds, yes, I want you to create the folder. I'm just going to rip off this migration somewhere here. Yeah, create artists. Excellent, except we're not about artists here. We are not artists, we're just normal users. You know, artists are overrated. Everybody claims they're an artist now because they can just, you know, plug a few strings on a guitar. How annoying of them. How annoying of them. All right, let's stop this rant. Cool, so now we do have a migration. And let's see what happens now. We still have the same error, right? Because we haven't told it where that migration was. Although I somewhat was expecting another error. I thought it would tell us that it wouldn't find the folder. Okay, that's interesting. Why is it? Spec helper. Okay, maybe it is actually skipping the migrations. Oh, would it be skipping the migrations by any chance? That would mean that by default, our default actually doesn't work. I don't know. Let's print something in here. And let's put pp config skip migrations. What is in skip migrations? So that should run twice. It should run because we have configured it inside our gem, but also it should run another time after because we are running it from this spec. Oops, apologies, because we're running it from here via a sub command. And let me make this single quote. Let's run this, and it does say true and true. Oh, all right. That is a bit annoying. Skip migration. So for some reason, it is not the default. Huh. What about? Okay, let me go to this folder here. There's a bit of debugging to do. Let's go there. Let's run this. Okay. So I'm assuming, yeah, that's not being set properly. So why would that be? Why would that be? Okay, skip migrations. We're in skip migration, and it is initialized, and it is false. At this point, I would like to create a little test just for that one, and just making sure that I'm not crazy. And let's describe specquel configuration. Let's describe the skip migration. And when context when not set, it defaults to false. Okay, so before this, we are when not set. That means we actually need to do our round block thingy, which is example, and then we need to reset the instance class. So that is singleton dot init. Yes, please, and it would be describe class. run the example. Okay, that means we should arise with a fresh configuration, config.instance, and then skip migration. So we should expect discrete class.instance .2 node 2 skip migrations. Undefined local variables, the .2 be skip migration. Alright, so it does default to false. Let's have the other example. Its counterpart when it is when set. Which is the default. I think we should make this explicit. Which there, so we're gonna do it this way, not specquel. Specquel.configure. Pass it the block, the config, and then config.skip migrations is equal to true. It is, yes, it should return. It returns true. Okay. Yeah, so that seems to be working. I think so. That might be something. That might be something else. So that definitely is something else. What it is, I have no fluffing clue right now. So I'm gonna take a quick break, and I will be back in a second. So I think what might have happened is because we've got two spec helpers, I might have set the skip migrations in the wrong one. I hope that's what it is. Otherwise, well, we're just gonna have to abandon the project completely, right? That's what we do, we're quitters. All right, so let's verify this. So in the sub project, spec helper, we are not setting skip the migration. Okay, so what if we explicitly set it? So skip migrations to false. Is this actually going to run the migrations? So let's run it first from the project. And it says that we must supply a valid directory. Well, so that's expected. That's expected. That is a good thing. So let's create that directory. Where's my terminal? My terminal is here. So make dir. I need to go back to fixtures and the integration test. mkdir -p db migrate. Right, and then okay, we've got the thing and the touch. Oh, I think I know what's happened. Well, one thing that's happened, I thought I had created that migration. Let me back off a bit. No. Okay. So let's touch that migration. Let's create that migration db migrate 001, create users $b. Okay, and then let's open this file, migrate 001. So I indeed had it on my, but I did not save the file. I think that's what happened, and then that's why it didn't run the migration, and that's why it explained our error. So now if we go back to the spec helper, let's remove this explicit setting and run the migration. Okay, so it still hasn't run the migration. This is very interesting. what is the value? Let's print our specquel config. Let's skip migration. So this is true. Ooh, okay. Okay. So that's the time where we actually need to fire up a debugger and inspect what's going on. So let's add the debug gem, debug, and I think now we should go to the spec helper. Now let's go to the library itself. And so on the lib, and then the specquel gem. And have a look at what is going on. So, oh, well, there you go. Because I'm configuring it here. Oh, and that should actually have been in the spec helper. Yeah, I got confused because of this RSpec block here. So that's what was going on. So let's remove this, and inside the folder project, in the specquel project, right? Don't get too confused. Here we are at the top level. I'm gonna go back to our spec, and then it's the spec helper, and copy this configuration block over there. And let me run the tests. There. Let me run those tests. So they do work, right? Yes, they work fine. Now let's go back to our integration spec folder and run this. And we can see that, oh, it's actually printed false. And we do get an error though, which the error is no implicit conversion of nil into string. So this is somewhat reassuring. I was pretty sure that we set this, but maybe we haven't. So let's go to the subproject, spec helper, and connection. Oh no, we have not. So yes, so that's perfectly fine. So yes, that's the next step actually we need to do. So migrations folder is equal to db migrate. And let's run the integration test and have a look. Excellent, yes. It worked. We get an error though because, oh, we're expecting a hash, but it's actually an array within a hash. So let's go back to the spec within the subproject spec and specquel integration. So let's run this here and then verify, yeah, we have the same error. So here, this should be this. Run that. And now we've got another error. So that's because we're actually not cleaning the database. So we could do one thing, which we could install database cleaner, for example, which is going to do that for us. However, I don't want to do this, and that's a little overkill to add in an extra gem. It's an extra dependency that you don't have control over. In our case, it's rather simple. We just need to have a config block that says that after each test, after each, or maybe around, let's do after each. Let's do an around, yeah. Config.around. Config.around. Yes, apologies for my terrible typing skills. Example, and there you go. We're gonna DB, so we're gonna have access to our DB, our users, and then we want to truncate the table. We want to run our example. Example.run. And for good measure, we also want to truncate it here. Okay, so that passes. This is amazing. Let's step back to our main project and run the test from there. Okay. Yes, we do have. So it's telling us indeed that we have two examples, zero failure. Oh, two examples and zero failure. I'm missing an S here. Run this. Oh, but it's got nothing. Oh, I wonder whether that should be. It might be the right. It's not the same process, right? So because we're running it with the system, so that's actually creating a sub process, like it's creating a fork. So I believe we might need to use this from any process method matcher, and that might do the trick. And no, it doesn't. That's interesting. That's interesting. What is the problem? Two examples, zero failures. Maybe I've mistyped something? No. Okay. Oh. Wait. Oh, yes. Expecting block to output to standard out, but was not a block. So I believe we need to make this a block. Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So we can capture the output. That would be the trick. Maybe we can actually remove this to standard out. And it doesn't work, so maybe we need to put that back in. And that works, yes. Okay, excellent. So that's pretty good. We've got our test running. And and it does run the migrations before each test runs. So let's run the entire spec project and see. Oh, we do have an error. So this happens because RSpec by default runs all of the files within the spec folder that ends with an underscore RSpec thing. So we need to tell it to ignore whatever is under this folder. And the way you do this, you need to, as far as I understand, the only way to do this is to add an exclude pattern here and pass this, and I think that should do. I think we need to do this and then this and then underscore.rb. Just ignore everything in there. Excellent, yeah, so that was the thing. So there's a little bit of cleanup to do because we still have this true that's printed out into the standard out. That's going to be the fixture spec and then spec helper, I believe. That's where I've put it. No, that was in the test itself, I believe. And ooh, nope. Okay, so that might be then integration spec. Let me then grep for pp. Ooh, yeah, so now leave.sql, yes, that's here. Let's run all of the tests again. Yeah, so that is all working fine, and I think that's let's commit what we have. Okay. Commit all of this, everything in here. Do I want to keep the debugger file? No, I don't want to keep this here. Let's remove that. I think we can remove all of this as well. That was just, yeah, I think that's fine. We're going to run the test anyway, one more time. This is fine as well. Yeah, that's our test. And then the spec helper. Cool. So implementation of running migration before the test, the specs, the test suite loads. Okay, let's run all of the tests one more time, make sure everything's fine. Yes, absolutely fine. So let's push this. And then create a pull request. Run migration before test suite. So let's create a new pull request. Excellent. Yes. Oh, we do want to add this little anything funky going on here? Yeah, obviously this code of conduct thing. We could tidy this up. Let's actually tidy this up a bit. This subproject. So spec fixture integration test. We said the code of conduct. Delete this. Yes. Delete the license. Yes. Delete this as well. Yes, that's fine. And I said I wanted to add a new line here as well. Let's commit all of this. Yeah, let's commit and amend the commit. Yes, perfectly fine. Push this again. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with any of this. That is looking pretty good. Yeah, that's our thing. Yeah. Test examples. Perfect, perfect. Let's see if all the tests have run successfully. So this might take a little while. Okay, so our test failed. That's interesting. What's going on here? Okay, so it seems that the way this is run... Oh, I think that is the rake, because it's run is using bundle exec rake. Okay, and rake actually has a special, actually does not use the .rspec file. So we're gonna have to modify this. Git. So that's gonna be in the GitHub folder, workflows and main. And just for sanity check, let's have a look at the rake file. Yeah, rake, Rupacop, rake task, back, and okay. So what's in that .spec file? Let's just bundle exec, run RSpec, and job done. And do we want to run the linting as well as a separate step? Maybe that might be a good thing to do. Name linting. And we are gonna go run bundle exec Rupacop. This way, if there are any linting errors, it's just going to fail. Right, let's commit this. And we're back again, waiting for forever. Okay, so it's still not happy because we have some linting errors. I am not going to care about this, and I am going to fire up the terminal and run bundle exec. Okay, so we want to cd one more time. Bundle exec Rupacop -a. So it just autocorrects everything. And let's have a look. Correctable, missing. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we need to do. All right. Rebook up, check project. It's going to provide us with some link to open the file directly. We need to add the frozen file thing here as well. Version, it's got it. Let me do this. Copy that on top and do this as well. Where more? We've done that one. This one also needs one. That's a bit annoying because there's just no string literals here. So a bit annoying that you need to do this. But whatever. And here, yeah, let's do that. Just rerun rebook up. Oh, there's one more. First argument of the describe should be a class, and the class that is being tested. Integration test. Yeah, well, that's just going to be specquel, really. So, can I provide an extra argument? I think you can provide an extra argument here. Integration tests. Let's have a look. And this also should be this. That file should end with integration test spec. Okay. Integrations and then test. I think to match or just integrations. Yeah, the second argument should or a dot class or dot class. Okay. What about using feature? And maybe it's going to be less annoying. Use describe instead of feature. Okay, scenario. It looks like it's going to be happy with this. And indeed it is happy. Oh, let's just for sanity check, rerun everything. Ooh. There's no such thing as scenario. Okay, let's go back to describe. I think I'm just going to disable the this check just for this. Oh, it's actually fine with it. Integrations. Okay, cool. Let's just commit this and hope that all the tests pass. Let me just amend the commit. Yeah, and then push force with lease. Always force push with lease. And let's wait another 5 hours. Excellent. All our tests are green. So I think that's it for this episode.